Hey, it's Chris Bowling,
It's Chris Fire.
CB squared.
We are CB squared, aren't we, CB?
It
What are
is
we talking
funny.
about today?
Yeah, well, today we're going to talk about benchmarking, why it's important, why I believe that it is helping some of our highest performing clients remain competitive in a market that's extremely competitive to find talent and,
Yes.
Obviously retain your talent. So, Chris, you and I, this time of the year is really when we're working on two things. Obviously we are focusing on, kind of the end part of that renewal cycle. Again, as we talked about in our previous sessions, you and I typically spend our summer, talking about renewal. So then there are no surprises, but now's kind of that time to say, all right, here was our strategy, but here's what our benchmark report says. Does that strategy line up with what we're seeing other companies do?
Yeah. As we've said, I mean, the comparison is the key.
Right.
It's when we deliver a benchmark report to a prospect or to a current client, it's not, here's what you're doing wrong. It's here's what the data shows. I mean, we had over 23,000 employers across the country participate this year. This is what they're doing. Do you want to be better or worse? Or are you okay where you're at when it comes to the actual cost for the plan, the deductible, the co-insurance? So very technical when it comes to insurance, this aspect of benchmarking.
Well, was it this week or last week that we sat down with an HR director that's struggling with the owner of the company around cost?
Yeah.
And her job is to, again, attract, retain talent. And she's hearing over and over and over, our insurance is too expensive. They are self-funded. So, again, they have that freedom to choose, really what they want to charge their employees. And I found in that conversation that she now has a visual, right? She has data to go back to the owner and say, look, this is what we're seeing other companies charge their employees for different tiers of coverage. And here's where we are.
Right.
So
by industry and by geography too. I think that was the other piece. It wasn't just the national. We were able to drill that down and say, this is what your peers and those that you're trying to hire away from. And it's going back to the owner and saying, we're not just going to increase costs because of renewal. We're asking you as an owner to increase your cost share because it's an investment in the employees. It's something we have to do because we can't fill positions.
Right. And this isn't just wrapped around medical plan. So why don't you talk about all the different aspects that our benchmark report really helps drill down into?
Well, it's, the focus has always been medical and, what we're seeing for plan design and deductible, but, we're asking questions about all benefit lines. We're asking about retirement. We're talking about PTO, asking what the best employers are doing for creative benefits. It's, different things that they're offering to maybe make them stand out across the country. And you and I glean ideas from that report, but then as we have conversations with our clients and with prospective clients, and we're delivering this report that they participated in, we're picking up all kinds of ideas because we're hearing from this organization in this community, in this industry, something that they've done unique that maybe that applies to somebody else. And it's helping us gather better knowledge and insight as we come back and help our clients be better performing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about deductible. This is the first year that we've seen in many years that that's starting to tick up. So why don't you give us some of the numbers around deductible out of pocket, and more importantly, why do you think we're seeing a increase for the first time in the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, it's an odd thing because this survey and this report came through with what would have been decisions made during heavy COVID issues. I mean, so you've got companies that had to close down, you had companies that had to lay off employees. So it's not a normal year, but across the country, this is the first time we've seen the deductible, and we'll talk single only, went from around $1,250 for a copay plan deductible up to $2,000. Huge jump this last year. And that average out of pocket for that individual is $4,000. I mean, that's crazy to see. And this is not just small employers. These are some large self-funded employers. This is every type of industry across the country, but that is what we see as that average this year. The why is kind of scary when you think about it. It's with that deductible jumping so high, the premium stayed right about the same, right around $600 a month for a single only premium, whether that be fully insured or self-funded. That average premium stayed the same, and we raised the deductible $750. I think it was just an attempt to keep business open. Profits were down, revenue was down. Unfortunately, it was a tough year for a lot of businesses, and I think they just tried to keep costs in line, and that ultimately probably hurt the employees. And now they're seeing it come the other way as they're trying to hire back employees, and now their plan is still costly and still not as rich. That's backfiring now in this quick shift for talent.
So this goes back to what you and I talk about quite a bit, which is why focusing on all the aspects of becoming a high performing client is so important, because we have costs now staying the same. We have a plan that has been devalued, right? We've increased our deductible, we've increased our out of pocket. So now we've got a line item on our expense that's usually in the top three, which is health insurance. And now we have employees that are not valuing our plan or may not value our plan because they're paying the same and their deductible went up $750.
Yeah.
It comes back to what you and I look at claims, which is, can your employees afford to be sick?
Yeah. And that's
if they
harder.
can't afford to be sick, what happens? Then they don't get the treatment that they need. And then by the time they're really sick, now we've got a $500,000 colon cancer that should have really been 50 grand or whatever that number is.
It's a scary reality, and you and I have worked through several strategies where we're able to, bring that out of pocket for the employee down to nothing for prescriptions or nothing for different surgeries. But still, that's not the most common practice. Those are ideas that can be implemented, but across the country, we see employees are gonna, that's hard to afford $4,000 out of pocket if you had something major. And on top of that, your premiums you have to pay every single paycheck.
Yeah. And our poor employers are, all they're seeing is increased cost, increased cost, increased cost. I mean, I go back to one of our clients 3 years ago, and he said, my job for you is to keep my costs the same, because every time I give my employee a raise, you know what happens? My insurance goes up and it sucks 100% of the raise, and I get zero credit for the raise.
Yep. And that is a bad cycle to be on when you're trying to hire employees. But, as we look at all those different ways to be high performing, if we're able to identify where organizations are potentially losing money or they're spending money that's not getting an effective return, and now we can allocate that back to help offset the medical costs or do something else, I think that's when we see that plan start to be better valued, because communication improves, but also there's the creativity that comes into that. We met with an organization a few weeks ago, and I know they're spending money on many different aspects of their benefit program. And it was amazing how many nickel and dime situations that were adding up. It's like, wow, you're spending all of that administratively for a plan that employees just don't know yet. What if we took that money and repurposed it? What could it look like? And those sorts of conversations really start with this benchmark report. Here's where you're at. It's not right or wrong, but here's where you sit today. Do you accept that? Are you okay with it? And what's your philosophy? And if it's not okay, what do you want it to look like? And how do we get there?
Yeah. Well, we have challenging times. We have costs going up. We have a difficult employment market. And how do you attract those new employees to come to work for your company?
Yeah.
We know salary or, how much per hour is going to be a big driver to that. But what you don't want is that employee benefit package to deter that. So
yes. Yeah. So that is something that, again, for our clients, for our prospective clients, we can benchmark what you're doing today. We can share that information. Feel free to reach out to us. It's something that, again, helps you with that springboard into what could be that larger conversation of what high performance means. But Chris, we take this information, we go now into that transactional renewal for so many employers. We make those adjustments and continue on with that strategy for the subsequent year.
Well done.
Absolutely. Good to talk with you today, CB. Thanks so much.
Take care.